Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar and workshop series conducted by TCS in lieu of the upcoming OCS exams happening in May 2026. My name is Nicholas and I'm the lead tutor and evaluator for OCS at TCS. So let's look at the session outcomes. First things first, I'm going to share some tips in terms of Preseen application because you should know how you should include Preseen info in your answers with the intention of coming up with answers which are aligned with the internals and externals of your chosen company. And then I'm going to conduct an industry analysis followed by a pre-scene analysis. We do not have time to, I do not have time to take you through the entire pre-scene. So I'm simply going to focus on the first part of the pre-scene, thereby conducting an analysis concerning the industry as well as the internal dynamics of your chosen company. So before we get into the technicalities, let me quickly remind you of the upcoming webinars and workshops we have scheduled for you. One of the most important webinars in which I'm going to teach you answering and time management techniques is happening next Saturday at 10 GMT or 10 AM UK. So in this answering technique webinar, I'm going to teach you crucial answering and time management techniques, and also I'm going to, after teaching you these two elements, I'm going to highlight how we should implement these answering and time management techniques in a practical manner by taking you through one of the questions taken from our first mock exam. And then in the fourth webinar, I'm going to share stress management techniques with you, because in this exam, as I mentioned in last week's webinar, the examiner is not just testing your theory knowledge and application. The examiner also tests whether you can manage your stress levels, because if you are incapable of managing stressful situations at your exam, you are going to panic. When you panic, you are definitely going to run out of time. When you run out of time, you'd have to repeat this examination. So I'm going to highlight these things in the fourth webinar, along with what the examiner has highlighted within the exam blueprint, especially focusing on examiner's comments, because it's essential that you understand what the examiner expects from you when conducting your preparation in the upcoming weeks. And once we are done with the webinar series, I'm kickstarting the workshop and masterclass series, thereby directing your attention towards each pillar. So in each of these workshops, I'm going to explain what is contained within each of your syllabus elements concerning F1, P1, and E1. And then I'm going to take you through a mock exam, thereby explaining how you should tackle a question tied to F1, P1, and E1. And in the final workshop, which happens just 2 or 3 days before your examination, I'm going to share last minute tips with you to make sure that you are walking into the exam with a high level of positivity. Because as per the CIMA examiner, if you are confident, if you believe in yourself, you will pass for sure in your upcoming exam. So I hope you will attend these weekly webinars and workshops without fail. These are conducted free of charge, and this is the best way to learn all the technicalities behind the OCS exam, and at the same time get all your questions answered in each week. All right, so having said that, let's try to figure out how we should deal with pre-scene application. So first things first, before you think about including pre-scene information in your answers, you should know your key information. So that's why we are sharing an annotated pre-scene with you, and at the same time, that is why we are sharing a pre-scene mind map. After this session, I'm going to share the pre-scene mind map via the WhatsApp group as a thank you gift for attending this webinar. So when you gain access to the annotated pre-scene, you will understand how easy it is for you to remember the most important points. Similarly, when you get your hands on the pre-scene mind map, you will easily remember the most important points highlighted within the pre-scene. So if you had gone through the pre-scene already, there's 25 to 30 pages. There are hordes and hordes of information. So you should figure out which of the information is actually important and which of the information you can forget about. So in order to make your life easy, we have developed this pre-scene mind map, thereby highlighting the most important points highlighted, which contains within your pre-scene. So there's information containing what happens within the chosen industry, and the history and internal dynamics of your chosen company, and how your company is involved with costing and budgeting initiatives, as well as what appears within the financial statements, how your organization conducts restaurant operations, as well as how they develop their menus, as well as products, and how they deal with ingredients and suppliers, as well as what is their viewpoint in terms of sustainability. And at the very end, you should have seen three different articles. So focused on these three elements, we have come up with a synopsis. So when you have this document at your disposal, you are supposed to go through this document over and over on a daily basis. If you do so, by the time you are walking into your exam, you will have a sound understanding of what appears within your Preseen. You need not do anything else to memorize Preseen information. Simply go through this Preseen mind map on a daily basis, then you'd remember what appears within your Preseen. So, in terms of applying Preseen info in your answers, first things first, as I mentioned earlier, you should know your key information. And then you should know your numbers as well. So we have, you should remember the key ratios, especially concerning working capital ratios. So we have developed a set of slides, thereby, conducting a financial analysis focused on each of the financial statements which appear within your Preseen. So we have evaluated the SOPL, the statement of financial position or the balance sheet, as well as the statement of cash flows. And on top of that, we have conducted a ratio analysis. I mentioned the fact that you have to be conversant with the profitability and activity ratios, especially focusing on the activity ratios, because your knowledge concerning working capital management is definitely going to be tested at your examination. So you need not work out these numbers and figure out what these numbers tell us about the company's financial situation, because we have conducted these evaluations already. We have done all the calculations, and based on these calculations, we have come up with appropriate evaluations so that you are in a position to easily figure out the financial standing of your chosen company. So there's a second element which you need to cover. And also, when conducting your preparations, you are supposed to prepare for possible scenarios, yet be open-minded. So when attempting the 6 mocks we have developed, you will realize how each conceptual element can be tested at the exam, but anything can be tested at your real examination. For instance, let's assume there's a question tied to sales variances. So a question which is tied to sales variances can be tested in multiple angles, and we cannot cover all these angles because we don't know how the examiner is going to create scenarios. We can only predict how each syllabus element can be tested. So when conducting your preparations, your job is to figure out how sales variances can be tested, and therefore how you should tackle a question tied to sales variance at the exam. The scenario which you will see is going to be somewhat different to what you'd see within the mock exams, because when attempting mocks, your job should be to figure out how each conceptual element is tested, rather than trying to figure out how each and every scenario might appear at your exam, because any type of scenario can be tested. So that's why you need to achieve a high level of open-mindedness. In this exam, your job should not be to memorize anything. Instead, try to get the logic behind each conceptual element and how each conceptual element is tested, and therefore how you should structure your answers concerning each conceptual element. So that is why we have developed answer plans. And when you go through these answer plans, you will easily figure out the logic behind each answer. And as I mentioned earlier, your job should not be to memorize answers. Instead, understand the logic or philosophy behind each and every question. And remember that the scenario presented in the exam carries the latest information. So by sharing a Preseen document, the examiner is giving you an indication of what has happened within your company concerning its history. There's a glimpse of what the company intends to achieve in the future as well. When I'm done with today's Preseen analysis, you will figure out what the company intends to achieve in the future. However, what you need to remember is the fact that what you'd see at your real exam will highlight some type of opportunities the company is trying to exploit or some type of issues it faces in the current situation. So just because you know your pre-scene, you are not going to pass your exam. Instead, at your exam, when developing answers, you need to utilize the current information which is shared with you. Rather than doing so, if you solely rely on past or pre-scene info, you are not going to pass this exam. So you will understand how to tackle all these elements in a practical manner at the third webinar, which is happening next Saturday. Because in the third webinar, I said that I'm going to teach you answering technique. And after teaching you these elements, I'm going to take you through a mock exam, thereby explaining how we should implement the answering technique in a practical manner. When doing so, I'm going to teach you pre-scene application in depth as well. Okay, so these are the elements which you need to focus on in order to gain marks for pre-scene application. So having said that, I'm moving to the industry analysis because I don't want to waste a lot of your time, because today's pre-scene analysis is going to be quite lengthy. So I'm going to jump into the industry analysis and then direct your attention towards what appears within your pre-scene. So I do not have time to take you through all these set of slides. Instead, I'm simply going to direct your attention towards the industry overview, because I intend to define what happens within your industry, define your market, and then direct your attention towards industry trends, because based on these industry trends, scenarios will be thrown at you at your real exam. So let's try to understand how this market is defined. So this time's pre-scene is based on the restaurant industry, and players within this industry are involved with commercial preparation and sale of food and beverages for immediate consumption. And what type of value are players within this industry trying to offer to its customers? First things first, players within this industry or restaurants are trying to offer higher levels of convenience, because rather than cooking food at home, it's easy when you can walk into a restaurant and fulfill your food related needs, because you need not spend time to cook as well as do your dishes and whatnot. You can simply order something online or walk into a restaurant and get rid of your hunger. And on top of that, in terms of value, restaurants try to offer a better experience. So this is one of the ways in which restaurants try to stand out from competitors. So some restaurants really focus on the ambience with the intention of providing a quality experience which stands out from competitors. And also, restaurants try to achieve the same level of quality and consistency. That's why you see a lot of standardization within this industry, because without standardization, you cannot achieve consistency. It's essential that you consistently develop the same type of dishes, and these dishes should have the same type of taste. If not, it leads to customer dissatisfaction. So if you achieve consistency, you will achieve quality. So in order to achieve consistency, it's essential that you standardize your processes as much as possible. And also, restaurants try to offer value for money. So what is value for money? Value for money is a situation where a company is providing good levels of quality and at the same time offering the product or service at a competitive price. So how can you achieve both these elements? Because when a company is supposed to achieve quality, you have to jack up the prices, because when you try to achieve quality, your costs will increase. Along with it, you'd have to increase your price. But the way in which companies achieve value for money is a situation where companies try to figure out non-value adding activities within their business processes. So since this time's pre-scene is based on a restaurant, if you look at a restaurant, when it comes to cooking operations or kitchen operations, as well as when it comes to serving operations, owners of these businesses try to figure out non-value adding activities, and they try to get rid of all types of non-value adding activities as much as possible. Because by getting rid of non-value adding activities, businesses are trying to achieve two things. They are trying to get rid of unnecessary costs, and at the same time, when you get rid of non-value adding activities, you are vicariously achieving higher levels of quality. So that is what value for money is all about. When you get rid of non-value adding activities, you are improving your quality, and at the same time, you are getting rid of unnecessary costs. And these cost advantages can be passed down to end customers via reduced prices. So that's how any given company, when it intends to achieve value for money, that's how they're in a position to offer better quality at a lesser price. So that's what, restaurants in this day and age try to offer as much as possible. And if you look at the key formats, there are QSRs or quick service restaurants. Examples are McDonald's, Burger King, and whatnot. These are joints which sell fast food. So there's a lot of standardization. They try to serve customers as much as fast as possible, and they benefit from scale related advantages because due to standardization, they can manufacture in mass quantities. When this is the case, fixed costs are spread across a larger number of units or large number of output. This leads to economies of scale related advantages. And there are full service restaurants as well. These are restaurants where you sit and dine, and there's waiting service, there's waiters, and there's a separate menu. They offer beverages, a range of dishes and whatnot. So these are known as full service restaurants. And your company, SoPa, is a full service restaurant. And there are casual diners as well. That's exactly what you see, what you can see within this picture. These casual diners usually focus on one single serving. It could be breakfast, it could be lunch, or it could be dinner. And there are fine dining restaurants as well, which offer 5-course, 7-course meals. These are Michelin star type of restaurants, and they try to offer utmost levels of quality, and these are expensive. And there are cafes and bakeries as well. And on top of that, some of the players within this industry have moved on to setting cloud kitchens or dark kitchens. So this is a situation where you are not serving customers within your location, within your restaurant. Instead, you simply set up a kitchen, in an industrial type of kitchen, and you fulfill delivery orders. So there are so many cloud kitchens out there. If you consider Europe, the Americas, as well as the Asian region, given the fact that it's quite cheap to run a cloud kitchen, because if you can forecast demand concerning your dishes, if you can forecast demand accurately, then you can manage your stocks appropriately. When this is the case, you can run a cloud kitchen without any hiccups, because when you set up a restaurant, there's a huge cost in terms of real estate, because you have to set up a restaurant in a public area which is accessible to most human beings. When this is the case, the real estate related costs are extremely high. But when you set up a cloud kitchen, no one is visiting your premises. So because of that, you need not really go for prime real estate. Instead, you can set it up anywhere you want, because you are only fulfilling delivery orders or delivery related demand. So that's how your market is defined. And then let's look at service characteristics, because if when running a restaurant, there's a service element as well. So you should not only focus on the kitchen operations or food preparation related operations, you need to look at the service element as well. So in terms of looking at service, we have to be considerate about our inputs or our ingredients, which are perishable. And also, when it comes to service, it is extremely time sensitive, because when a customer visits a restaurant, you have to provide the service instantaneously. If not, the customer is going to be dissatisfied. And on top of that, you are dealing with perishable items. So stock management becomes extremely important, because if you overpurchase, it leads to wastage. If you underpurchase, it leads to customer dissatisfaction, because when customers visit our restaurant, if we say that a certain dish is unavailable, this leads to low levels of customer satisfaction. So tight stock control and waste management is key. And when you are running a restaurant, it's extremely labor intensive, especially things are not too easy when it comes to peak time periods or when the demand is peaking, because you have to manage your labor force. You have to invest a lot of time on headcount planning, because if you get it wrong, however much conversant you are in terms of food preparation, however popular your menu or your location is, you are going to get impacted adversely, because if you cannot manage your headcount properly, it leads to inefficiencies, delays, as well as it leads to unnecessary costs as well. So HR's or headcount scheduling, training, and retention of staff are critical. I'm going to talk about retention in a little while when I'm taking you through the internal dynamics of your chosen company. And service is part of the product. So speed, friendly service, cleanliness, and ambience, they all add value. And menu engineering drives profitability, because in this day and age, customers don't want to eat the same thing over and over. So if you're dealing with loyal customers who frequent you, then you have to offer some type of a difference. If not, the customers are going to get dissatisfied. And there's a lot of technology usage with the intention of bettering the service levels as well. So there are point of sale systems utilized within restaurants, and kitchen display systems, so that customers can easily place their orders. And there are reservation systems as well, because if you have a digitalized reservation system, then you can streamline the cooking as well as serving processes, as well as this delivery driven by food delivery apps as well. And some restaurants have their own loyalty applications as well, with the intention of having a good relationship with customers, because if you build a good rapport, then it leads to repeat business in the future. So that's the service element of running a restaurant. And having said that, let me quickly tell you about what the type of trends which will transform this industry in the future. So there's an increased level of focus on digitalization, such as online ordering systems, with the intention of increasing the efficiency of serving as well as kitchen operations. And there are mobile apps, as I mentioned earlier. Some high-end restaurants have built their own mobile apps with the intention of providing bespoke type of service to its clients. And as well as there are self-service kiosks as well. You find these type of kiosks a lot in Japan, South Korea, and whatnot, in which you can, it's something like a vending machine. You can put your money and, get your food instantaneously. And there's a lot of data analytics being used within this industry, because, as I mentioned earlier, demand forecasting is extremely crucial, because if you are in a position to accurately forecast the demand, then you can get your purchasing right, because you're not going to over purchase or under purchase when it comes to purchasing your ingredients. So when you know for a fact how much, how many customers you are going to serve in a certain day, and based on it, when you know for a fact how much ingredients you need, you are not going to waste anything. So when you're not wasting, you are saving your costs. And at the same time, you can manage your employees or your HR appropriately as well, because when if you know how many dishes you are supposed to make in a given day, then based on it, you can be involved with headcount planning. So if you get it right, you are saving costs once more. So you can significantly reduce wastage, and at the same time, keep tabs about peak and off-peak times, because if you can accurately demand off-peak times, then you can offer discounts and make sure that customers still flock into your restaurant. So all these things can be achieved in terms of cost containment, as well as increasing revenue by investing on data analytics. And data analytics have improved significantly in this day and age, given the fact that data analytics are driven mainly by AI systems. So artificial intelligence systems are, they carry the capability to accurately predict or forecast demand. And as I mentioned earlier, if we can forecast demand accurately, we can forecast our procurement needs accurately, as well as plan our headcount accurately, and also get our, or manage peak and off-peak times by, for instance, offering discounts. And also sustainability is a key element within this industry, because all restaurants are trying to reduce their food waste with two objectives in mind. Objective number one is to contain their costs, and objective number two is to achieve a high level of sustainability. And most players within the industry are involved with ethical sourcing, as well as investing on eco-friendly packaging as well, because in this day and age, especially when dealing with youngsters, they are concerned about the type of suppliers a company is dealing with, concerned about the environment, the green credentials of a business. So that's why sustainability is a key trend which is going to change the dynamics within this industry. And also health and wellness is a major concern, again, especially concerning the younger customer segments, because plant-based options are in demand, as well as customers are keeping tabs about calories of the food they consume, because youngsters are focused on ensuring health and wellness when it comes to their food intake, and as well as allergen friendly menus are offered by restaurants, so that you are fulfilling the health and wellness needs of customers. And cost pressures drive this industry as well. This is a major weakness faced by many restaurants, many players within this industry. So with the intention of reducing costs as much as possible, because as I mentioned earlier, we have to offer value for money. If not, we are going to lose sales. So that's why there's a huge cost pressure. So in order to contain the costs, restaurants invest on automation. So there's a lot of robots within kitchens as well as serving operations, and inventory systems are lean as much as possible. Restaurants rely on just-in-time purchasing, because as I mentioned earlier, we are dealing with perishable items in terms of ingredients. So because of that, we cannot purchase a lot and stock them. So restaurants on a daily basis purchase the produce they need, or purchase the ingredients they need. So this is a just-in-time system. So you are placing orders, small orders frequently. This leads to unnecessary ordering costs. So in order to reduce your cost exposure, given the fact that you are exposed to ordering costs, you have to go lean in terms of inventory management. And also supply negotiations are crucial when conducting a just-in-time purchasing system, because if you do not have collaborative relationships with suppliers, you can't be too sure of receiving your supplies on time, because if you don't receive supplies on time, then you're not in a position to satisfy customer needs. And at the same time, you cannot ensure that the ingredients are of the utmost levels of quality if you do not have collaborative relationships. So you have to deal with a set of chosen suppliers. You cannot deal with all suppliers out there. So it's essential that you treat the suppliers properly in order to build collaborative relationships, because without these collaborative relationships, a JIT purchasing system will never work. And also there's an increasing trend for experience-driven dining as well. There are themed restaurants, and there are customer engagement and loyalty programs. And in this day and age, customers, before they eat, they take a picture of their food and post it on social media. So a social media friendly presentation is a key element which drives business for players within this industry. All right, so that's what I wanted to highlight in terms of the industry dynamics. So having said that, let's try to understand what appears within your Preseen. All right, so first things first, let's try to understand what your role is. As per the Preseen, you are supposed to play the role of a finance officer. In last week's webinar, I explained what a finance officer is supposed to carry out. So you are, in a nutshell, you are located at the lowest level of the organization. You are involved with implementing the decisions which are arrived at by board members. So you are supposed to rub shoulders with daily workers. You are involved with implementing decisions. So as a finance officer, your focus should be on the short run of your organization, because you are not a decision maker. Instead, you are supposed to assist decision makers. So as an individual who is assisting decision makers, you are not supposed to think about strategy development and whatnot, the long run success of the business. Instead, you are supposed to conduct your evaluations, provide recommendations concerning the short run. And also, as an individual who is working in the operational level of your chosen organization, you are supposed to be conversant with budgeting, the current budgeting system practiced within your company, as well as alternative budgeting systems. when you are supposed to develop budgets and be involved with the budgetary process, you should be conversant with variance analysis as well, because you are supposed to, at the end of the budget period, you are supposed to compare the actual performance against budgets and try to figure out what type of variances we are dealing with and why these variances arose. And at the same time, as an individual who is working at the lowest level of the organization, your knowledge concerning costing will be tested. You are involved with costing initiatives, so your knowledge concerning costing, which includes digital costing, will be tested at the exam, because definitely, as I mentioned earlier, restaurants try to digitalize with the intention of reducing their costs and improving their efficiency. So when we digitalize our processes, it's essential that we digitalize our costing initiatives as well. So that's why this is part and parcel of your responsibility. And you have to be conversant about how we manage our short-term finances. That's why you have to be conversant with working capital management. I said that your knowledge concerning activity ratios will definitely be tested at this exam. And as an individual who is involved with the short-term or day-to-day activities of your chosen company, you should be involved with short-term risk management as well, because when I take you through the remaining parts of this Preseen, you will understand the fact that the company intends to achieve so many things in the future. It is planning so many, it has so many expansion plans. So with these expansion plans, we are exposed to a lot of uncertainty, we are exposed to a lot of risks. So as a finance officer, your job, part of your job is to be involved with short-term risk management. And as I mentioned earlier, you are supposed to assist decision makers, not arrive at or decisions on your own. All right, so that's what your role is. Then let's try to figure out what your company is all about. So as I mentioned earlier, this time's Preseen is based on a restaurant chain, and the name of this company is SoPa. And SoPa operates 9 different restaurants, and this this restaurant chain is based in Zeeland, a country which is based in Europe, and the currency is the Z dollar. And looking at the history, this company was founded 10 years ago, and it's owner managed since inception. So 2 individuals got together and formed this business. So it's a husband and wife. Both these individuals are Latin Americans who had migrated to Europe. Both these individuals have worked within restaurants, and after they got married, they started their business 10 years back, and they have been successful. That's why you see that they started with a single restaurant, but now they are running a restaurant chain which is spread across 9 different locations. And what are they offering? They are offering Latin American street food elevated to restaurant standards. So they are offering Latin American street food because they are Latin Americans. They know what they are offering. And although this is the case, although they are offering street food, they have elevated it to restaurant standards. And their reputation, the business's reputation, is based on offering high quality food and beverages, offering a modern and relaxed setting, as well as they are focused on affordability. So I was talking about the importance of value for money, the importance of the ambience as well as quality. So that's exactly what these guys try to achieve when running their business. And at present, there are 300 employees spread across these 9 different restaurants, as well as there's a set of individuals, 30 individuals working within the head office as well. And still the business is 100% owner managed. All right, so that's our history. And let's try to understand what the examiner tells us about the industry. So this is a fictitious industry. I took you through the real life dynamics concerning how restaurants operate, but let's try to figure out what happens within this fictitious industry as per what the examiner has highlighted within this Preseen. So the examiner says that the restaurant industry is highly competitive. Why is this the case? Because there are a large number of diverse restaurants, and many players within this industry own multiple restaurants, or they run their own restaurant chains, chains, just like what SoPa is up to. And the revenue which was generated in the year 2025 amounted to Z dollars 45 billion. So this is a huge market. However, corporate failure is common. Why is this the case? Because some restaurants, they start really well, but when they expand, they lose grip of how each of these restaurants operate, or they lose grip of quality as well as service. So because of that, it leads to poor customer service, customer reviews rather. When a certain restaurant is facing poor customer reviews, not just the branch is impacted, the entire restaurant chain as well as its reputation will be impacted adversely. And also, poor food and service leads to bad reviews, and this will impact the reputation adversely. And as I mentioned earlier, when businesses within this industry, when they start making some profits, they try to expand too fast. And when you expand too fast, you are not in a position to manage affairs appropriately. So you can easily run your own single restaurant, because let's assume that you are the owner. You can keep tabs about how the kitchen operates. You can keep tabs about how the front of house staff are operating. You can keep tabs about customer satisfaction levels. But after some time, when you expand, you cannot work in all your branches. So at the moment, SoPa is running 9 different branches. So the two owners of the business cannot look into the affairs concerning these 9 different locations on a daily basis in a practical manner. So this is a situation where you have to rely on restaurant managers. So if the restaurant manager is not doing his or her job properly, then it impacts the performance of the restaurant in an adverse manner. So when you expand too fast, you have to dedicate or delegate rather responsibilities of running the business or running a certain branch to restaurant managers. And if you are not dealing with qualified as well as experienced restaurant managers, it will impact the performance of a certain restaurant or a branch adversely. And also, it's common to see working capital management issues within this industry, given the fact that the margins are extremely low. So you have to really contain your costs, manage your costs. If not, if you lose grips in terms of cost containment or cost management, you will have to close up shop 3 months or 6 months down the line, because you are dealing with inventories which are perishable. So if you do not manage inventories properly, as I mentioned earlier, it leads to unnecessary costs. And at the same time, you are dealing with customers who can be easily dissatisfied. If customers are dissatisfied, you end up losing your revenue. And at the same time, when it comes to dealing with suppliers, if you do not have collaborative relationships with suppliers, and if you dissatisfy your suppliers, or due to some type of a supply related issue, if customers are impacted negatively, then we are facing bankruptcy. So it's extremely hard to manage working capital concerning these 3 points. And additionally, another issue, the biggest issue is the fact that it is tied to labor management. So it's not easy to manage labor related costs. It's not easy to manage headcount, especially during off-peak times, because during off-peak times, you are exposed to idle time, idling staff members, idling resources. And when this is the case, you are not in a position to be profitable in the short term. So that's why most restaurant chains close down, after a couple of years in operation. And in terms of another problem is in terms of diversity in food and experience. I said that it's essential that you standardize everything, because you have to achieve consistency in taste as well as ambience. But when you have so many restaurants under you, if a certain restaurant manager is not doing his or her job properly, then the kitchen staff are not going to work properly. If so, you're not in a position to achieve the same taste in terms of the dishes you sell. And if the restaurant manager is not doing his or her job properly, then the front of house staff will not provide the same type of service. When this is the case, you cannot again achieve a standard level of service. This leads to bad reviews and loss of business. So that's your industry. So let's try to figure out the challenges within this industry. So there are economic cost as well as staff related challenges. In terms of economic challenges, interest rates are high. So when the interest rates are high, the finance costs will increase. So if you opt for loan funding, the loan interest is known as finance costs. So when finance costs increases, your profitability will dip. And on top of that, you are dealing with high inflation. So when the inflation is high, your inputs or your ingredients are high. When the inflation is high, you'd have to pay higher wages to your employees. And when this is the case, your costs increase. And when your costs increase, you have to pass down these additional costs which are created due to inflation to your end consumers. And if the cost of living is high, then consumers might not eat out. Instead, they'd prepare their own food at home. So these type of economic factors or economic cycles impact sales as well as profitability of players within this industry. And in terms of cost, as I mentioned earlier, there's food inflation, which will impact the price of our dishes, as well as the property costs are through the roof. Because when you're setting up a restaurant, you have to ensure that you set it up in a populous area. You have to ensure that there's parking space and whatnot. So when you purchase real estate in a populous area, definitely it's going to be expensive. So one of the largest fixed costs when running a restaurant is the fact that you have to set it up in a populous area. And because of that, you end up paying a huge rent. So this is a major element which drives costs within players within this industry. And also the minimum wages are increasing, and this in turn increases the labor costs. When labor costs increases, our total costs would increase. And the third challenge is in terms of staff, because it's difficult to recruit and retain individuals within this industry. You can recruit individuals, but 3 or 6 months down the line, these individuals end up leaving. So there's a huge labor turnover. And when the labor turnover is high, you'd have to spend a considerable amount of time to keep training all the new joinees on a regular basis. So when you spend a lot of time to train, the problem is efficiency drops, and at the same time, it might lead to mistakes, and mistakes leads to a situation where customers are disgruntled. So these are labor-related issues, and why are we finding it hard to retain staff members, given the fact that within this industry, when you consider the employees working within this industry, they receive low wages, they have to work long hours, as well as the working conditions are poor. So that's why they stay within a restaurant for about 3 to 6 months, and then they move on to a totally different type of an industry, because no one wants to work in the restaurant industry because it's too tough and you are not really paid well. And so those are the challenges. And looking at the opportunities, there are some opportunities in terms of embracing technology, because you can harness the power of artificial intelligence in terms of menu development, because you can keep track of what is in trend at the moment. And utilizing AI, you can predict what will be in demand in the future. So when you know how the future is going to look like, you can change your menus. You can develop or come up with new menu items. When this is the case, when we keep tabs about the current needs of customers, and when we are in a position to predict the future needs of customers, this leads to customer satisfaction. So we can utilize AI to predict about the future and come up with new types of ideas, new types of dishes with the intention of satisfying, keeping our customers satisfied in the future. And also, artificial intelligence is used for stock management as well, because as I mentioned earlier, using AI, we are in a position to accurately predict the demand. If we are in a position to accurately predict demand, then we can manage our ingredients as well as supplies or stocks appropriately. And there's an increased level of automation which impacts this industry, because we can use robots to automate kitchen operations. By doing so, we can achieve a high level of efficiency. We need not worry about labor-related issues. I said that they have to work long hours. So when we utilize robots instead of humans, then we need not worry about long work hours, because we have automated the process. And at the same time, when we utilize robots, we are getting rid of human error. We are achieving high levels of efficiency, because utilizing systems or software, we can streamline the process easier rather than working with human beings. So, if you utilize robots within kitchens as well as in service or serving operations, then we can achieve cost efficiencies and higher levels of accuracy. And another opportunity is to offer better guest experience, thereby catering various different dietary requirements as well as providing an immersive experience. Some high-end restaurants let their customers cook within the restaurant itself, thereby providing an immersive experience. This type of thing cannot be implemented within SoPa because we are not a high-end restaurant, but this is how the industry works. And we can engage with dynamic pricing as well, with the intention of driving sales demand when the demand is low. So definitely you will see a question tied to us offering discounts. And when we offer discounts with the intention of increasing the demand during off-peak periods, this results in adverse sales variances. So your knowledge concerning sales variances will definitely be tested. And also another opportunity is to treat employees properly. So if we pay fair wages, if you offer good working conditions, we are in a position to create a better team spirit, and this will lead to job loyalty. If you are dealing with loyal employees, then we can easily streamline processes, easily get rid of inefficiencies, and contain costs within restaurants. This is something which is extremely hard to achieve. That is why within the restaurant industry, as I mentioned earlier, you see an extremely high level of labor turnover. And there are diversification related opportunities as well, such as moving into takeaway and home delivery market. This is a high growth area. Therefore, definitely this type of a scenario will be tested at the exam, because towards the very end of this pre-scene analysis, I'm going to talk about what the company intends to achieve in the future. So the company intends to set up, deliver its own delivery service as well, given the fact that it's a high growth area. And as I mentioned earlier, the overheads are extremely low because you are not dealing with customers directly. Instead, you have set up your own kitchen and simply involved with cooking operations or kitchen operations, forgetting about the service element or the front of house element in its entirety. All right, so these are the challenges and opportunities concerning the industry, and let's try to dig deeper in terms of what the company believes, what your company SoPa believes in at the moment. So the company celebrates tradition, and although they are celebrating tradition, they are open to embrace change as well. So this highlights the fact that the two owners have a positive outlook in terms of innovation or in terms of change, and they try to use fresh local ingredients as much as possible. So when you are utilizing local ingredients, transportation related emissions will decrease significantly. And when you are utilizing local ingredients, you can ensure freshness as well as availability of ingredients as and when needed. And the company believes in sustainability because, as I mentioned earlier, in this day and age, it's essential that restaurants achieve high levels of sustainability, given the fact that the customers are asking for it. And also, the company invests on employee well-being with the prime intention of addressing the labor turnover related issue. Because if we address this issue, we can run a restaurant without any hiccups. And in terms of the locations, I mentioned the fact that we operate 9 different restaurants. 6 are based in Tombo. Our first restaurant was opened in Tombo, and we have expanded within this region. And 3 of our restaurants are located outside of Tombo. So these are cities within your chosen country. What you need to remember is the fact that we have not expanded beyond our country, which is Zeeland. All 9 restaurants are within our country, which is Zeeland. And looking at the future, we try to be rooted in heritage because we celebrate tradition, and we are trying to shape our business based on the experience, because the 2 owner managers, they were working within restaurants before. They have experience within this industry, so they are trying to utilize it for their benefit. and they are innovation driven. Although they are believing in tradition as well as heritage, they love to change, they love to be innovative as well. So based on all this information, the syllabus areas which can be tested are tied to the CGMA cost transformation model, because if we are to achieve a higher level of sustainability, then we have to spend some additional costs, because it's not easy to achieve sustainability. If you are to be sustainable, you have to spend some additional costs. So there's a way in which you should balance the benefits of sustainability with the additional costs tied to sustainability. So these things are highlighted within the CGMA cost transformation model, which focuses your attention towards 6 different elements. So definitely this conceptual element is going to be tested at your exam. Also, if we are to be innovative, we have to rely on digital costing systems. So your knowledge concerning digital costing principles will be tested, and your knowledge concerning CSR and sustainability will be tested, given the fact that the company believes in sustainability. And it's essential when dealing with employees, it's essential that we deal with them in an ethical manner. When dealing with our connected stakeholders, such as our suppliers, it's essential that we deal our business in an ethical manner. That's why your knowledge concerning ethics will be tested, and also your knowledge concerning non-financial factors in decision making will be tested at the exam. So that's about what we believe in. And there's some information about the restaurant menu as well. You need not actually memorize all these numbers. These numbers are there so that tutors like us can utilize these numbers when producing questions. You just need to gain a generic understanding of the type of menu items on offer. There's an in-depth evaluation concerning each menu item in the budgets highlighted within this Preseen document. And let's try to figure out how our key management teams operate. So our business is spearheaded or led by Paulo, our managing director, as well as the executive chef. And under Paulo, there are 4 different directors. So one director is looking at restaurant operations of all 9 locations. There's a marketing director as well as a human resources director, because as I mentioned earlier, managing human resources is a key element of this business model. And there's a finance director as well. And looking at the finance team, it is led by a finance director, as I mentioned earlier. And under the finance director, there's a head of finance, and you are one of the 3 finance officers. So your immediate boss is your head of finance. However, at your exam, there could be questions where you receive an email from your finance director or any other given director within your chosen company. Okay, and looking at the restaurant operations team, so within the head office, we have a separate restaurant operations team, which is headed by Sophia, the other founder of the company. And this individual is known as the restaurant operations director. And under this individual, there are 3 different heads. So there's a head of kitchen, head of front office, as well as head of property and equipment. So when you are running a restaurant, it comprises of 2 main elements, a kitchen as well as a front of house. So these 2 elements concerning all 9 restaurants are managed by a head of kitchen as well as a head of front of house. And at the same time, there's a lot of property and equipment used within each of these locations. So that is why there's a separate individual providing leadership in terms of how we manage our property and equipment. And concerning how each restaurant operates, a restaurant is headed by a restaurant manager. So these 4 individuals rather, are located within the head office. Their responsibility is to look into affairs of all 9 restaurants, how they manage their kitchens, how they manage their front of house operations, how they manage their property and equipment. However, when you look at individual restaurants are managed by a restaurant manager. And a restaurant manager is supposed to look into 2 main elements. When running a restaurant, you need to manage your kitchen operations, and at the same time, you have to manage your service elements, which is part and parcel of the front of house operations. So kitchen operations are managed by a head chef, and front of house operations are managed by a front of house manager. And this includes management of the bar as well as management of servers and cleaners. So the restaurant manager is supposed to manage kitchen operations as well as front of house operations within each location. And the responsibility of managing these restaurant managers lies with the head of kitchen, head of front office, front of house rather, and the head of property and equipment. All right, so that's how our business is structured. And then let's try to understand the type of directors, about the type of directors within your chosen company. So you need not remember all this information in depth. Just having a generic idea of the type of directors within your chosen organization would do, because you are playing the role of a finance officer. You are not dealing with these board members. So having a generic idea would help you. So looking at the directors, they are experienced and they are focused on the future. They are customer centric. They are hell-bent on pursuing local and international expansion, which highlights the fact that there definitely will be a situation where we are expanding locally, in which we open a new branch, our 10th branch. And at the same time, there could be a situation where we expand internationally as well. And also they try to create a positive work culture. That's why they are focusing on acquiring appropriate talent and retaining them. They try to support professional growth of each of our employees. They try to achieve diversity when it comes to recruitment, and as well as they are hell-bent on being innovative as well. So based on all this information, the probable exam scenarios which can be tested in terms of expanding to new markets, both local and international, introducing new products. It could be new dishes. It could be a new product range. I'm going to talk about new product ranges in a little while because there are hints provided by the examiner concerning us manufacturing a range of dips, sauces, as well as meal kits, as well as on top of that, your knowledge concerning or a scenario concerning embracing AI and robotics within our kitchens, within our restaurant operations might be tested, us embracing better sustainability, investing on digital costing systems, as well as pursuing diversification, related diversification, such as moving into the takeaway or home delivery in market might be tested at the exam. So tied to these exam scenarios, your knowledge concerning sustainability and ethics will be tested. Since we are planning on being sustainable and innovative, your knowledge concerning the CGMA cost transformation model will be tested. Your knowledge concerning digital and social media marketing will be tested, because if we are going digital, our marketing should go digital as well. And also your knowledge concerning the current versus alternative costing systems will definitely be tested. There are various different alternatives. You have to have a good understanding of all these alternatives and how these alternatives are different to our current costing system. And your knowledge concerning working capital management and variance analysis will be tested. And in terms of future investments, when we go for future investments, for instance, if we open a new branch or a new restaurant, then we have to make investments concerning equipment and machinery. So this is a situation where your knowledge concerning IAS 16 property, plant and equipment will be tested. An alternative, rather than purchasing equipment or machines, we can go for lease agreements. If so, your knowledge concerning IFRS 16 leases will be tested. When trying to make investments on new machinery, we might end up selling our old machines or equipment. If so, your knowledge concerning IFRS 5 non-current assets held for sale and discontinued operations will be tested. Along with it, your knowledge concerning suggesting KPIs focused on restaurant operations, keeping tabs about the success of a diversification drive, as well as your ability to suggest non-financial KPIs tied to customer satisfaction, innovation, supply relationships, and achieving sustainability might be tested. And also you should know how the use of KPI dashboards are going to impact our decision-making processes, how beneficial it is going to be for our company, as well as your knowledge concerning forecasting techniques will be tested, especially given the fact that it's essential that we forecast the demand of our existing operations And at the same time, since we are trying to, pursue diversification in the future, since we are trying to expand, it's essential that we manage our risks and uncertainties by adopting appropriate forecasting techniques. So all these elements can be tested at your examination. Okay, so having said that, let's try to understand what happens within the various different departments within our business. So menu, in terms of menu and product development, it is totally handled by our executive chef or our managing director, Paulo, who is a co-founder of the business. And this individual is involved with developing new dishes, because we are offering seasonal dishes. We are changing these seasonal dishes every week, so we have to be innovative. That's part and parcel of the responsibility of our executive chef. So this individual develops new dishes, and after doing so, creates recipes and instructions, and also creates a video demonstration, and all this information is shared with head chefs within each of our branches. Because as I mentioned earlier, just because Paulo is doing his job properly, it does not mean that restaurants are or the head chefs within each of our branches are going to do their job properly. So that's why it's essential, after developing a menu, it's essential that you share all the instruction, as well as demonstrate how you're supposed to cook the dishes. That's why Paulo is doing all these things and sharing this information with head chefs. And this individual is involved with developing standardized menus concerning our signature dishes, as well as I mentioned earlier, specials which change each week. And Paulo is supposed to deal with suppliers as well, and he is hell-bent on sourcing locally and dealing with sustainable suppliers as much as possible. Because when you're dealing locally, you can ensure that dealing with local suppliers, you can ensure that your transport emissions are reduced significantly, and at the same time, your lead times are cut, and also you can ensure the freshness of ingredients. And Paulo wants to introduce an SP or a SoPa branded dips as well. And he had already reached out to a small supermarket who is this supermarket is interested in selling our SoPa branded dips. And we have two options at our disposal. We can manufacture these dips in-house within our within one of our kitchens, or we have the option of outsourcing manufacturing to a third party. And when we outsource manufacturing, we are only supposed to focus on packaging, branding, and selling these items under our SoPa brand. So these are two options at our disposal concerning the manufacture of dips, which will definitely be tested at your examination. So tied to all this information, the probable exam scenarios which can be tested are tied to operational issues. If there are any type of operational issues within a kitchen, this could be tied to machine downtime, or this could be tied to some type of an HR related or a staff related issue. So all these issues will lead to bad reviews in the future. And also, in terms of introducing a new dip range, a SoPa branded dip range, your knowledge concerning make or buy decisions will definitely be tested. And also, it's essential that we forecast our demand accurately, because we are offering seasonal specials. We have our standardized set of menu items, and on top of that, there are seasonal specials which are changed each week. So when we are changing something each week, it's essential that we keep tabs about demand. We keep, forecast demand accurately. If not, our costs will increase unnecessarily, and it will eat up our profit margins. So the syllabus areas tested tied to these possible exam scenarios are tied to managing risks and uncertainty, especially when trying to do something new, such as trying to sell our own branded dips. And your knowledge concerning make or buy decisions will definitely be tested. Your knowledge concerning various different forecasting techniques, such as time series analysis, linear regression analysis, seasonal variation, as well as limitations of each of these forecasting techniques will be tested. your knowledge concerning what if versus sensitivity analysis, which is tied to short-term decision making, will be tested. As I mentioned earlier, your knowledge concerning variance analysis will be tested along with various different costing methodologies, the differences between marginal and absorption costing, the current versus alternative costing systems will be tested at the exam. Tied to costing, your knowledge concerning pricing will be tested, since we are offering multiple menu items. And on top of that, since we are intending to sell a range of dips in the future, your knowledge concerning multi-product break-even analysis will be tested. And also, the examiner is going to test whether you know about how AI, machine learning, and robotics might impact the internal dynamics of your chosen company. And if we utilize these technologies, especially if we go for automation or if we rely on robots, we will have to make some of our employees redundant. When doing so, you should know how to manage these redundancies in an ethical manner. So this element will definitely be tested at your exam. Also, be prepared to suggest KPIs concerning restaurant operations, dealing with various different types of restaurant staff members, keeping tabs about their performance, keeping tabs about the performance of suppliers, and keeping track of customer satisfaction, as well as if we end up selling tips to retailers, then we have to keep tabs about retailer performance as well. All right, so these are the elements which can be tested. And in terms of restaurant operations, currently, as you know, we are running 9 restaurants in Zeeland, 6 are based in Tombo, 3 are based in other cities. And we have standardized operations within each of our restaurants. We offer the same menu. We try to achieve the same decor and ambience, because as I mentioned earlier, it's essential that you standardize. If not, your costs will be through the roof. And in the future, we are contemplating about opening the 10th restaurant, which is going to be within Zeeland, and we are opening on the 1st of July 2026. So definitely, your knowledge concerning this scenario will be tested at the exam. You will see a scenario in which we are opening our 10th restaurant within Zeeland itself. And also, your knowledge concerning and a scenario tied to an international expansion can be tested, because the 2 founders are interested in expanding to a neighboring country, which is known as Zeeland, as per your Preseen. So the probable exam scenarios which can be tested are in terms of expanding locally and internationally, embracing artificial intelligence, robotics, and machine learning, acquiring or leasing new property, plant, and equipment when going for local or international expansion, and when we are going for some type of an expansion in order to fund our investments on machines and equipment, we might have to end up selling our old machines. So tied to all this information, your knowledge concerning managing risks and uncertainty will be tested. So you have to have a good understanding of various different risk attitudes, and based on these risk attitudes, what type of decisions each decision maker will arrive at. Your knowledge concerning payoff tables, expected values, standard deviation, and coefficient of variation will be tested. You should know how to compute value of perfect information. And also, your knowledge concerning limitations of each of these risk management tools will be tested at the exam. And as I mentioned earlier, you have to be conversant with forecasting techniques such as time series analysis, linear regression, seasonal variation, and you should know the limitations of each of these forecasting techniques. Your knowledge concerning various different costing and pricing methodologies will be tested, along with multi-product break-even analysis, and your knowledge concerning IAS 16 concerning different angles will be tested in terms of acquiring new property, plant, and equipment, revaluations when selling our old property, plant, and equipment, how to account for depreciation, as well as how to deal with right-of-use assets under IFRS 16 leases, and also your knowledge concerning suggestion of KPIs to keep track of inefficiencies within restaurant operations, as well as keeping tabs about the success of an expansion drive will be tested. Also, your knowledge concerning short-term investment as well as short-term financing options will be tested as per your statement of financial position or the balance sheet. Currently, we have a cash surplus. So rather than holding on to this cash surplus, we can opt for short-term investment options. Alternatively, let's assume we have expanded, and due to this expansion, we are facing cash deficits. Then your knowledge concerning short-term financing options will be tested at your examination. Okay, then let's dig deeper to gain a better understanding of restaurant operations. So, as I mentioned earlier, each restaurant is managed by a restaurant manager, and the responsibilities of a restaurant manager is twofold. A restaurant manager is supposed to look into kitchen affairs as well as manage front of house operations. So, directing your attention towards what happens within a kitchen, there's a temperature control storage, a food prep area, a cooking area, as well as a front pass. This is the position in which the head chef ends up checking the food before the food is delivered to the customers, as well as each restaurant manager is supposed to deal with kitchen employees, which comprises of the head chef, the sous chef, and various different chefs, and also deal with individuals involved with cleaning the kitchen, and these individuals are known as kitchen porters. And in terms of front of house operations, a restaurant manager is supposed to look into dining tables, the bar area, the reservation stand, and within this front of house operations, you find employees such as the front of house manager, the bar manager, as well as the server manager, and you find bartenders and servers. And there are shifts. There's an early shift as well as a late shift practiced within each of our restaurants. Our restaurants are open from 12:30 p.m. to 11 p.m. That's why you see two different shifts. You need not really remember all these points concerning shifts because these are highly technical. These information are shared with you with the intention of providing you a generic understanding of how a typical restaurant operates. And in terms of revenue, we try to service 300 customers per day. So each customer is known as a cover within this industry. So we try to serve 300 covers, or in terms, we try to serve 300 customers on a daily basis. However, although we are planning to serve 300 customers daily, our actual occupancy is just 85%, or numerically, we are servicing just 255 customers on average on a daily basis. So this indicates the fact that there is definitely going to be a variance because we are planning to serve 300 individuals, but we are only serving 255 individuals. This leads to an adverse sales variance. So definitely your knowledge concerning sales variances will be tested at the exam. And in terms of the mix of our customers, 60% of our customers are from the restaurant's city itself, and 40% are customers who are visiting the city. And 70% of our customers are repeat customers, which indicates the fact that most of our customers are satisfied. If not, they are not going to frequent our locations. And customer feedback is encouraged via QR codes. And we have received extremely good reviews in the early years. But now, if you look at the last year, we have achieved mixed reviews. Why is this the case? At the inception of this session, I mentioned the fact that when you start small, when you are running your own restaurant, you can manage affairs properly. But when you expand, you can't keep tabs about what happens within each restaurant. This leads to a dip in service, dip in the quality of food on offer, and this had led to mixed reviews. So when we started with a single restaurant, we were extremely successful. But since we have expanded to 9 locations, our reviews are mixed at the moment. So in the future, we are planning to set up home deliveries via a ghost kitchen, which is based in Tombo. So I mentioned about a ghost kitchen. So we are planning to move into the delivery business as well. So the probable exam scenarios which can be tested are tied to us setting up a ghost kitchen and embracing artificial intelligence, robotics, as well as machine learning in our operations and service. So when doing all these things, we are exposed to risks and uncertainties. You have to be conversant with forecasting techniques, costing and pricing. And when we are investing on machines, knowledge concerning IAS 16 as well as IFRS 16 leases will be tested. You should know the benefits of adopting AI and robotics in our operations and services, how to deal with redundancies properly when we pursue automation, and your knowledge concerning the suggestion of KPIs to keep tabs about restaurant operations, ghost kitchen operations, as well as customer satisfaction will be tested. And also your knowledge concerning various different variances which appear within your P1 syllabus will be tested at your exam. And in terms of supply relationships, we purchase different types of ingredients, such as meat, fish, eggs, dairy, fruit, and vegetables. And we purchase dry ingredients as well. And we purchase restaurant supplies such as napkins, glasses, crockery, and cutlery. And frozen ingredients are not purchased. So I said that we are practicing a just-in-time purchasing system. So that is why we are not purchasing frozen ingredients. We rely on fresh ingredients. That's why we purchase in small quantities on a daily basis. So suppliers, looking at suppliers, we are dealing with single sourcing as well as multiple sourcing. If you look at fresh fish, we are only purchasing from one single supplier. The same could be said about dairy. However, when you look at the other types of ingredients, we are dealing with 2 to 5 different suppliers. So we are involved with single and multiple sourcing, and the payment terms range between 15 to 60 days. So we are supposed to repay our suppliers. Some suppliers, we are supposed to settle dues within 15 days. And when dealing with some suppliers, we can take something up to 60 days to repay amounts due. And we source directly from our suppliers because we lack a central storage. That's why we are not purchasing frozen ingredients. And in the future, we are planning to widen our supplier base. And when widening the supplier base, our main focus is to source locally as much as possible with the intention of reducing food miles. When you reduce food miles, you are achieving two benefits. You are driving down costs as well as you are cutting out your emissions, which will lead to better sustainability. And also, we plan to set up a vertical farm as well. A vertical farm is a situation where you rely on hydroponics technology. So within a small area, you end up growing your vegetables, for instance, which can be freshly picked. So you can set up a vertical farm right next to the restaurant, so that you need not really rely on suppliers, for instance, when it comes to purchasing salads. Rather than purchasing them, we can grow them within our own vertical farm within a small amount of space. So the general analysis is the fact that we are pursuing just-in-time purchasing, which is going to be costly because there's never going to be bulk discounts, because when we are involved with a just-in-time purchasing system, we are purchasing frequently. We are purchasing small quantities. So when we purchase small quantities, we are losing out bulk discounts. And the ordering costs are high because we are ordering each and every day. So order costs are extremely high, and we are exposed to stock out risk as well when we rely on a just-in-time purchasing system. And the success of a JIT purchasing system depends on collaborative supply relationships. Therefore, we must pay our suppliers on time, and also we must ensure that suppliers stick to their service level agreements. They have to adhere to quality standards as well as they have to adhere to lead times. If not, our operations will be negatively impacted. And single sourcing, when we rely on single sourcing, it increases the risk of stockouts because although we have signed an SLA or a contract with our suppliers, if the single supplier fails to supply to us, then we are stranded. So single sourcing, especially when we go for JIT purchasing, when we rely on one single supplier, it exposes us to additional risks in the future. So the probable exam scenarios which can be tested are tied to issues with our existing suppliers, or it could be a situation where we intend to choose a new supplier. When choosing a new supplier, we have to look at the financial and non-financial elements. We have to see whether this new supplier is financially stable or not by looking at the working capital position of a business. And at the same time, we have to look at non-financial considerations such as quality, ethics, as well as lead times. And also, you might have to deal with issues with a chosen supplier, as well as your knowledge concerning the supplier offering us discounts and it leading to various different variances, and us offering a discount to our customers on the other hand, which leads to sales variances, will be tested at your exam. So the syllabus elements which are tested are tied to inventory management. You should know what an aggressive approach to inventory management is. You should know the difference between economic order quantity model and the JIT purchasing system. And your knowledge concerning working capital management along with IAS2 inventories will be tested at your examination. And I want to direct your attention towards sustainability as well. To achieve sustainability, SoPa should reduce its energy consumption and reduce its food wastage. So with the intention of achieving sustainability, the company has adopted mitigation strategies. So they use furniture made out of sustainably sourced wood. They use recycled paper and cards as restaurant supplies. They limit waste by ordering ingredients in small amounts. I said that if you are to achieve sustainability, you have to spend some additional money. So when you're ordering in small quantities, your order costs increases. So you are achieving sustainability, yes, but on the flip side, you are exposed to some additional costs. And the company intends to use energy efficient equipment as much as possible, and they rely on green energy sources. So the general analysis is the fact that there aren't any measurable key performance indicators used by the company with the intention of measuring whether they are actually achieving their sustainability goals. They have plans. They have thoughts in terms of how they should achieve sustainability. They believe in sustainability, but they are not really keeping tabs about whether the company is actually achieving sustainability or not. So definitely be prepared to suggest KPIs at your exam. Okay, so that's that. And looking at employees, there are 30 employees working within the head office, and there's 30 employees working within each restaurant. And the human resources management plan is to pay fair wages, train all our employees appropriately, make sure that our employees do not overwork. Although we are planning to achieve these things, currently we are finding it extremely hard to maintain morale of our employees because we have too many restaurants to manage at the moment. So the general analysis is the fact that it raises the question as to whether kitchen and service staff are overworked, whether our employees are lacking training, because there's a separate page dedicated towards reviews which we have received from our customers. If you go through these reviews, you would see that we have achieved mixed reviews, and this indicates the fact that some of our employees seem to be demotivated, and when we are dealing with demotivated employees, it leads to high staff turnover in the future. So your knowledge concerning training cycle will be tested along with suggesting KPIs to keep tabs about the success of our human resource management policies, especially focused on achieving high levels of motivation and retention within our organization. All right, so these are the reviews. I'm not gonna take you through all this information because we are running out of time. I simply want to direct your attention towards one of the news articles which appears towards the very end of your Preseen, because I intend to explain to you about what the company intends to achieve in the future. So this article carry information about SoPa, what it believes in, and what it intends to achieve in the future. So we are looking at our ethos. We are focused on providing high quality food and beverages, offering a modern and relaxed setting, and we try to provide value for money or affordability. And these ethos are achieved by achieving higher levels of quality via consistency. So at the very beginning, when conducting the industry analysis, I said that if you are to achieve quality and consistency, you have to standardize your processes appropriately. Okay, so that is why the head chef, not the head chef, rather the executive chef or the managing director of this company is involved with menu development, This individual also looks into offering seasonal specials, which are added to the menu each month. Sometimes we keep changing the menu each week as well. And we try to deal with we try to create a situation where we are dealing with passionate employees. So that's what we try to achieve, or that's what we believe. And looking at the future, we are planning to expand to other Zeeland cities. As I mentioned earlier, definitely you will see a situation where we open our 10th restaurant within Zeeland itself. We are planning to expand internationally as well. We are, as per this Preseen, our board members are contemplating about moving into an adjacent country, which is Zeeland. And we are also planning on selling dips, sauces, and meal kits. We are also contemplating about starting a delivery service, setting up a ghost kitchen, and on top of that, setting up a vertical farm. So based on all this information, the probable exam scenarios which can be tested are tied to expanding locally and internationally, expanding our offerings or product range, developing a delivery app if we move on to delivery service, as well as if we move on to delivery service, we have to make investments concerning setting up a ghost kitchen. Alternatively, there could be a scenario where we are setting up a vertical farm as well. So as you can see, there's a lot of plans concerning the future. We are trying to diversify as well as expand locally and globally in terms of our restaurant operations. And on top of that, we try to sell or offer new types of products to the market and set up various different types of businesses as well, such as setting up a ghost kitchen or setting up a vertical farm. So the syllabus areas tested are tied to IAS 16 as well as IFRS 16. And your knowledge concerning transfer pricing and taxation can be tested, especially if you set up internationally. So when we set up a branch or a subsidiary, the way in which it impacts your taxation as well as transfer pricing are quite different. So your knowledge concerning transfer pricing and taxation will be tested. You should know how to manage risks and uncertainties tied to all these types of investments. Your knowledge concerning forecasting techniques, costing methods, pricing, as well as cost of app development, costs of quality, environmental costing will be tested, especially given the fact that we try to achieve high levels of quality and sustainability. And multi-product break-even analysis, linear programming, what-if analysis, make or buy decisions, as well as suggesting KPIs to keep tabs about the success of an expansion drive, as well as the performance of a mobile app. If we go down this road, if we introduce a mobile app, we have to keep tabs about its performance as well. So be prepared to suggest KPIs. So all these elements are covered within our mock exams. So you need not worry about being clueless of how to deal with all these elements. You might think that there's too much on your plate. Yes, it is. But if you stick to our study process, if you conduct your preparations based on the 6 mocks which we have prepared, we have made sure to cover 72 subtasks in total, thereby covering the entire syllabus across the 6 mock exams. So if you conduct your prep based on the 6 mocks, then you will understand how each of these scenarios can be tested, and also how each of these syllabus elements might be tested at your examination. So I do not have time to take you through the entire Preseen. So I only conducted the Preseen analysis partially, with the prime intention of ensuring that you understand the internal and external dynamics of your chosen company and understand what the company intends to achieve in the future. I urge you guys to watch the 2 remaining Preseen analysis videos, which are available via the paid courses. These videos are already up along with the study resources. So please start your preparations, because I said that you should kickstart your preparations after you are done with the Preseen analysis. So kickstart your prep by watching the 3 Preseen analysis videos and then go through the annotated Preseen on your own, because that's what you're supposed to achieve within this week as per the study plan. So let me quickly remind you of what you're supposed to achieve within this week. So you can find the study plan within our OCS web page itself. So we are in week number 2. Within this week, you are supposed to watch the pre-scene analysis videos, refer to the annotated pre-scene, and refer to the industry and financial analysis slides. So once you master the pre-scene, you can kickstart your preparations in terms of attempting mock exams. So don't attempt mocks within this week itself, because wait until we are done with the 3rd webinar, in which I'm going to teach you an answering and time management technique. After learning these 2 elements, then you have to focus your attention towards attempting the mocks as per this study plan. And if I quickly tell you what we offer at TCS, you can create a free user account by clicking on this button. And once you have created a user account, you will gain access to our student dashboard. And via our student dashboard, you will gain access to the free resources, which consist of a free mock exam, its suggested answer, and the answer plan. And you have the opportunity of attempting mock exam 1 in its entirety under exam conditions via our exam platform. Don't attempt it right now. Wait until we are done with the 3rd webinar, which is happening on next Saturday. And we are offering 2 different packages, the Essential and the Value course. The Essential is intended for those who have completed their OTQs. Since you have already learned all conceptual elements, since you are conversant with E1, P1, and F1 syllabi, just attempting 3 mocks will help, because your job is to simply refine your application skills. You can achieve this simply by attempting 3 mock exams, which comprise of 36 questions in total. And alternatively, looking at the Value course, this is intended for those who are coming through the exemption routes and those who had failed the OCS exam previously. So under the Value course, you will gain access to all mock exams, which comprises of 6 mocks with suggested answers, and we have made sure to cover 72 questions in total. And on top of the mock exams, which is the most important resource, you will also gain access to the answer plans of all 6 mock exams. So rather than having to go through pages and pages of suggested answers, when you have access to answer plans, you will easily see the logic behind each answer, because you can figure out how you should structure your answer. You will figure out how to deal with each conceptual element, and you are in a position to easily figure out pre-scene application. And when you have access to these type of answer plans, you will improve your understanding of how to tackle each conceptual element. And at the same time, when you are revising, it makes your life easy, because your job when it comes to revision is to try and replicate these answer plans on your own. So these are the resources on offer. And the Value course is priced at £149, and the Essential course rather is priced at £149, and the Value course is priced at £249. So if you are planning on sitting for the exams happening in August, you can start right now, which gives you some additional time to spend on your OCS preparation. All right, so I'm happy to say that we achieved a pass rate of 96% concerning the exams which happened in November 2025. Our highest score ended up scoring 119 when the pass mark was just 80. So you can achieve a similar grade similar score rather, if you stick to our study process, if you stick to our study plan and start your preparations right now. So having said that, it brings us to the Q&A. So if you have any questions, you can switch on your mic and talk, or drop us a message via the chat. Yes, I think a question had come through. One of you is asking, I was wondering if we could get a recording of this session by any chance. Yes, the recorded version will be shared with you via our student dashboard, as well as our YouTube handle, and the recording, the YouTube link will be shared with you via the WhatsApp group. Any questions, folks? Did you gain a good understanding of what this industry is? Did you understand the internals of your chosen company?
Hello.
Any questions? Yes, the recording will be uploaded to the WhatsApp group. The link of the recording, rather.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. How can I help?
Yes, I want to know, just to be clear, you're saying now we there are other videos that are on the platform. Then we watch those videos, and then we learn also the theories behind it for now. Then then next week we're gonna be learning the answer plans. That's when we can start with the mocks. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So to be clear, within this week, we are supposed to gain a good understanding of what is contained within the pre-scene. Okay.
Okay.
So that's why you are supposed to
Mhm.
watch the pre-scene analysis videos. Then you will understand. So in today's session, I took you through the internals and externals of your company partially. I did not take you through the budgets. So that's budgets and costing. All these elements are covered in the second pre-scene analysis video. And in the third one, I've conducted the financial analysis by taking you through what appears within the statement of profit and loss, statement of financial position, and statement of cash flows. Okay. So within this week, you need not worry about mock exams. Simply gain an understanding of what appears within the pre-scene and how, based on pre-scene info, what type of scenarios as well as probable exam elements or theoretical elements can be tested at the exam, because theories and application and refining your answering technique starts when you when you commence mock attempts. So don't think about mocks right now, because next week, next Saturday, I'm going to teach you how to deal with mocks, how to develop your answers, how to manage your time. So after learning these techniques, you should try and practice these same techniques, implement these same techniques rather, when attempting each of the mocks. So within this week,
Oh,
you should only focus on the pre-scene.
okay, okay. No. I just looked up on the dashboard because now I was thinking, when will the videos be available? And I've just seen the videos are there for the second video and the third video.
Yes.
Okay. And then what about what you used, the annotated pre-scene?
You can check under
Okay. Yeah, it's there. It's there.
it's there as well. Yeah. Okay.
All right. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. So Tabiso is asking a question. What's the budgeting and costing system currently used at SoPa? So the budgeting system is traditional incremental budgeting. So these individuals develop a budget concerning the next 12 months. Let me quickly scroll you to the relevant area. Where is this information? Yes. So the company relies on standard costing principles as well as budgeting. So budgeting, as I mentioned earlier, is annual incremental. And in terms of costing, this is the first time we are seeing a pre-scene or a company rather, which relies on standard marginal costing. So if you had sat for the OCS exam previously, or if you had gone through past pre-scenes, you would have realized that all pre-scenes are based on a company which relies on standard absorption costing principles. But this company relies on standard marginal costing. Why is this the case? This is tied to the way in which restaurants are operated. Because if you look at the standard costs, I'm simply directing your attention towards beverages. So if you look at the standard costs, there's a selling price and an average indirect cost, ingredient cost, as well as an average direct labor cost. Both these costs are direct. So rather than computing the gross profit, these guys are computing the profit after direct cost per dish or beverage on offer. So this is quite different to a typical manufacturing company you would see within previous pre-scenes, because in a manufacturing company, you see you find a lot of variable and fixed overheads. That's why they rely on absorption costing principles. But considering the internal dynamics of this industry, this company relies on standard marginal costing. So the questions will be a bit different to that of costing related questions, which you'd see in a typical manufacturing company. And therefore, questions tied to activity-based costing, for instance, will be a bit different as well, because you cannot really use activity-based costing within a company which utilizes or which is exposed to direct costs mainly, compared to the indirect costs. Okay, so that's what I've highlighted in here as well. Okay, so if you watch the second Preseen analysis video, you'd gain a better understanding of what I just said. Tabiso, I hope I understood your concern. Anything else, folks? All right, seems like there aren't any questions. So thank you very much, folks, for raising your concerns. I hope I addressed all your questions. And if you want to contact us, you can do it via our website, which is www.study@tcs.com. You can visit the website and click on the contact button and then drop us a message. Our admin staff will get in touch with you via email during office hours, or you can simply email us at info@study@tcs.com, or if you need instantaneous support, you can drop me a message via this number. And I urge you guys to follow us on our social media handles, especially YouTube and TikTok, because the recorded versions of these webinars and workshops are uploaded onto our YouTube handle. And via TikTok, you'd gain access to 6 videos, which is essentially a good Preseen mind map. So on your way to office, for instance, keep watching these 6 videos on a daily basis to constantly keep yourself reminded of the most important points highlighted within your Preseen. And the PDF version is this, which I'm going to share with you after this webinar is done via the WhatsApp group. So thank you very much for attending this session. I hope you gain a good understanding of the internals and externals of SoPa. And within this week, I hope you will take steps to master Preseen information so that you can, from the upcoming week onwards, you can start your mock attempts. So thank you for joining. I'll see you guys next week, next Saturday at 10 a.m. UK or 10 GMT, in which I'm going to teach you answering and time management techniques. And in the meantime, if you have any question, drop me a message. You can email us or simply drop me a message via the WhatsApp number I displayed previously, so that I can answer all your questions instantaneously. So thank you for joining. I'll see you guys on Saturday. See you and take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
See you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.